Today, we're diving into a government scheme in Meghalaya that was supposed to lift families out of poverty by giving them pigs. A pretty simple idea, right? But for so many people, those pigs never showed up. The money just vanished. And that promise of a better life, it turned into a debt trap. In this explainer, we're going to follow the money and uncover how a systematic scam can hide in plain sight.
So this whole story really boils down to one central question. What happens when government aid, something that's promised on paper and celebrated in official reports, just disappears? And we're not talking about a few bureaucratic mix-ups here. The answer, as you'll see, reveals a pretty calculated system of staggering fraud.
So how do you even begin to expose a scam this big? Well, it all starts by asking a question that seems almost too simple. A question that cuts through all the paperwork and all the official stories. Did the people who were promised help actually get it? And the answer is, well, it's staggering. If you look at the official records, you see a perfect picture. 10 out of 10 people got the aid they were promised. But the reality on the ground? It tells a completely different story. For every 10 families, as many as 7 are left with little to nothing. This isn't just a small gap, it's a massive hole. So where on earth did the aid for those 7 families go?
To really understand what's going on here, we have to look past the charts and see what these missing funds actually mean for the families who are counting on them. So this number right here, this is the crucial part. For every 10 families approved for this scheme, somewhere between 4 and 7 of them end up with either nothing at all, a few useless materials, or animals so weak and small that they can't even survive. The scheme isn't just failing them, in a lot of cases it's actually making things worse.
And let's be really clear about something. This is not just a case of inefficiency. The source material reveals this is a structured 4-stage process. It's like a repeatable formula, and it seems designed specifically to siphon funds away from the very people it's supposed to help. So let's break down the anatomy of this scam.
And this lays out the entire journey. It starts with a hopeful farmer applying for the scheme. Then you get to stage 2, the phantom disbursement. This is where money is shown on paper as being paid out from their account before they've seen a single pig. Stage 3 is what we're calling the delivery charade, where just a fraction of what was promised actually shows up. And finally, stage 4, the trap. The farmer is now on the hook, in debt for the full amount, with almost nothing to show for it.
And this slide just shows you the sheer scale of the deception. On the left, you've got the promise. A complete package, 10 healthy piglets, a proper shed, and a good 6 months of feed, all valued at 2 lakh rupees. And on the right, that's the reality. A few undersized piglets, some building materials that are basically useless, and no feed at all. The actual value they received is only about 20% of what was promised on paper.
So that brings us to the big question, right? Where does all that money go? If the government is disbursing 2 lakh rupees, but the farmer only gets assets worth 40,000, that leaves 160,000 rupees completely unaccounted for. So, let's follow the money.
It was siphoned off. As you can see here, only about 20% of the scheme's value, that tiny slice, ever makes it to the farmer. The other 80% is split. A huge chunk, about 40%, goes to the contractor who supplies the shoddy goods. And the other 40%? Well, that goes to the officials who sign off on the paperwork, the ones who certify that a full and proper delivery was made, even when they knew it wasn't.
Now you might be thinking, okay, these are some pretty big allegations. But here's the thing, these aren't just rumors. This whole scam was uncovered by following a clear trail of evidence, using the government's own documents, and by talking directly to the people on the ground.
The evidence, it turns out, is hiding in plain sight. It's in public records requests that show all the contradictions. It's in bank statements that show money moving in and out of farmers' accounts without them even knowing. And most importantly, it's often documented in very careful, bureaucratic language in the government's own internal audit reports.
And this part is fascinating. When the government's own top watchdog, the Comptroller and Auditor General, investigates these things, its reports use these coded phrases. They'll write things like, beneficiaries could not be traced, or assets not found. Our source material makes it clear what this really means. These are official euphemisms for fraud. It's just a polite, bureaucratic way of saying the people, or the pigs probably, never existed in the first place. So, this all leads us to a final, really crucial point. When we see a system that fails 40 to 70% of the time, consistently, and in a way that just so happens to enrich a network of insiders, are we really looking at simple failure, or is it something else entirely?
Which brings us to a final, incredibly powerful question posed by our source material. Just think about this for a second. If a private company defrauded 40 to 70% of its customers, it would face criminal prosecution. But when the government does this to its poorest citizens, it's called implementation challenges. Why is systematic fraud against the poor treated as mere bureaucratic inefficiency instead of organized crime? It's a question that really challenges us to look beyond the paperwork and see the real human cost. Thanks for joining us for this explainer.